guys, so I want to talk to you about something that I've just kind of realised that I've been having to do lately, and that's relearning life, relearning how to do things. And it sounds funny, like, what do you mean how to redo life? But because I got poorly when I was 18 and diagnosed with ME, like every year after that I lost a little bit of myself, and every year I seemed to gain a symptom or had a flare up, and something, there was always something. And that meant that I couldn't live a normal life. I couldn't go out to work like a normal person. And then when I became a mum, I struggled a lot. And having to learn how to be a mum, alongside how to learn to live with a chronic illness, the two didn't merge very well together. They collided, and what happened was I ended up living in fear, because every time I wanted to do something, whether it was with the kids or something for myself, I seemed to always get poorly every time I tried to do something. So I became fearful of trying things. So I became quite antisocial, secluded, a bit of a hermit, didn't like going out. And because I struggled to do these things, my kids didn't do these things. I wouldn't take that. They didn't go to any parties for years to start with, because I was too fearful to leave the house, and to meet people and talk to people and socialise was very fearful for me, because I hadn't done it for so long. Then when I was 25, I would say it is when I hit rock bottom. That's when I was at my worst, physically, mentally. I'd cracked. And this was when I decided to make a change. This is when I knew something had to change. Even if my body wasn't going to change, I knew I had to be more proactive in how I was dealing with things, proactive in being a mum. Because I just withdrew so much, and also because of sensory overload, I struggled to be around my children. Depression was really bad, and I just wanted to be on my own. I just couldn't cope with anyone, really, in general. So the first change that I made was my nutrition. I changed from eating nearly anything that was out of a packet to whole foods, and I was actually shocked at the impact it had on my health. My pain reduced like dramatically. I was blown away by how much my pain reduced, and along the way I learned so much about nutrition and the power of nutrition and the effects that it can have on your body at a cellular level that we just aren't really taught in school. And it's actually something I think like should be taught in school, like the difference of me from the way that I ate before to the way that I ate after, and the difference in my physical and mental state before and after is so different. I'd actually love to go into schools and just show kids, like, this is the state I was in, I changed my diet, and this is the state I became. Like, the difference is massive. The state before was very depressed, couldn't be around my children, in and out of a wheelchair like a freaking yo-yo, never left the house. Then I started walking more. I came out the wheelchair for like a couple of weeks or a month at a time before I ended up back in it. You know, it was a massive difference. My pain reduced, so I didn't feel so grumpy, and I didn't feel so fatigued because my tremors were less than they were before. So, you know, that it was like a snowball effect in all my symptoms, in how nutrition affected my symptoms. The other thing I did was start reading self-development books. This was something I was told to do years and years ago. I was like, books aren't going to make me feel better. I highly recommend you reading self-development books. The very first one I read, I think, was called Girl Code. And I was like, oh, this is good. I was reading it and it made me feel like empowered. It made me feel like, yeah, do you know what? I can do this. I can do anything that I want. It was really encouraging. So that helped my mental state. That helped me just feel better within myself. I felt more positive. The next sort of change that happened, this was over like years of all these things happening. And the next one I did was going to see a doctor that specialised in mitochondria, and I'd read a book about, which is called Mitochondria Not Hypochondria, and it explains like what mitochondria are, how they affect the body, how they affect your energy within your body, and if they're not working, why you feel so shit. And when I read the book, I was like, this is what is wrong with me. It just, everything clicked, everything made sense, but I didn't know how to go about fixing it. And then the power of the universe linking up synchronicities all over the place that came to me, that there was this guy that did this most simplest of tests to find out how your mitochondria are working. I was like, this sounds way too easy, but I'll give it a go. So I did, and I have been doing it for, I think, 2 years, maybe nearly 3. It has been my game changer. Like, if anybody suffers with ME, this is, or even MS, diabetes, there is like, he helps so many varieties of illnesses that are out there. It was a bit of a tricky start because of, I just seem to have one of those bodies where everyone's like, they think they know what's wrong, and then they do a test and they're like, oh, that doesn't link up with what I was thinking. So it took a while to get things sorted. The thing about doing the mitochondria was I was able to walk. Like, this was mind-blowing. Like, it was something I honestly didn't think it was going to really happen for me. Why do I always cry when I do these videos? Ugh. I got to the point where I didn't really think I'd ever be able to walk properly, like go for a walk by myself. I'd kind of written it off. And after seeing him, I think about a year, maybe, I was able to go for a walk down the lane by myself, which was mind-blowing. And then when I did, I just cried. I was walking, I was streaming, like, I get emotional now thinking about it because it was just so powerful. And like, but it's like in such a good way, like such a good feeling, which was a change for me as well, because normally everything was such a shitty feeling that I was actually crying happy tears, and it was just so overwhelming. But in true Katie style, I overdid it, and it took about 1 year to 2 years before I could get back to that. In fact, I haven't really got back to that since. There is a little bit of fear in me in case I overdo it again, so that has stopped me quite a bit. But baby steps and all that. I'm getting there slowly, and I will get back there because I know that feeling, and I know I can do it. I can do it. So about 2 years ago, I just felt lost. I just didn't know what I was supposed to be doing because I was feeling better than I was before, but I wasn't feeling well enough to really be doing something. I was in that in-between, that sort of limbo, and I just didn't, I was so restless. Like, I just wanting to do things, but my body was also like, please don't. Around that time, I just kind of gave up on a lot of stuff. And I went inwards again. Felt like I had so many questions of life in general, but I also had equally the same amount of fears, because I'd lived with fears. This is all I've known is fears. Fears have stopped me from doing so much, and it was just the same thing. So 2 years ago, I was like, when I realised it was fears that had been stopping me from doing things, so I tried to get more proactive in how I could approach things. What could I do next? How could I take this a step further? And I did mindfulness, was one of the very first things to help with my anxiety, and that led on to then doing meditation, which then led on to stumbling across the spiritual side of myself and going on my own spiritual journey. It's really helped me see things in a different way and approach things in a different way. It's helped me figure my mind out in the way that my mind works, and that has been the key for me. This is where things really started to change, when I was able to figure out that I was causing so much more damage to myself by allowing my mind to take over, because it had been built into cycles that when I did this last time, I crashed, burnt, failed, and I was out for a week or a month. So I told myself if I ever did that again, the same thing was going to happen. Therefore, it did happen because I told myself it was going to happen. So it's very, very tricky, the mind. But you can, when you realise that you do that, you can then approach it in a different way, which is being conscious. So when when your mind starts doing that, going, oh, you can't do that because this happened, da da da, that's when you're like, no, let's see what happens this time, with no preconceptions of what will happen, and tell yourself you can do it, and that you see yourself doing it was the big thing for me as well. Because I can do about 20 different scenarios where things can go wrong, but giving you one good scenario was so hard to do and seeing myself do. But that's where things changed. If I could visualize exactly how things was going to go and how I was going to feel, and literally see myself standing up straight, feeling confident, walking, no aids, because sometimes I would like just visualize aids as my safety, and I was like, no, I don't need them. So I've taken that away. They're gone. And this has been something I've been working on for maybe nearly 2 years or a year and a half or something, and I have crashed and burned many, many times because of it's quite tiring as well, in going, oh, right, I'm doing it again. What can I think of now? And trying to change it. And also it's habit. So you can so easily slip back into it when you are feeling a bit tired or hormonal. And it becomes a challenge. I still need to work on things, I cannot lie. But it's a positive step. And I will continue like that, because I am telling you now, that is how I will be, and there are no other options, okay? There's no other thoughts going in. No, I am going to be awesome. But this is literally what I'm like around the house, when I go out. I'm always doing it now. So yes, relearning life. I hadn't realised that this is what I'd been doing over the last 5 years. 5 years when I started making those small positive changes with nutrition. So it's been a long journey, but before that I'd suffered about 8 years of fear and pain and chronic fatigue and tremors, they're a toughie, and depression, which is probably the worst out of all those things. 8 years of telling myself I was shit, I couldn't do things, that people didn't want to see me, that honestly, the things that have gone on in my mind, to now I've done 5 years of positive work, positive action. There have been times where all those things have appeared and cropped up and come back into my life, but that's the whole challenge, isn't it? To have less of that and more of the positive. And then you also have the guilt of not being a good mum, a guilt of not being a good wife, and then the guilt of not earning money for the house and helping with the bills. There is so much guilt that we put on ourselves. Like all those times, all those years of not doing stuff with the kids and not taking anything, I felt guilty, but at that time of my life, I couldn't control that. Now I can control those fears, I can control anxiety, I can control a better majority of my life than I ever could before. And it is still scary, I can't deny it, but I have so much more hope and positivity and this like inner knowing that I can do it, that it outweighs that sort of fear and negativity. But it has taken me a long time to get here, it's taken me a long time to get to this point. But I do feel like I can do this. But again, it's this relearning. So over the last 5 years, I've had to relearn nutrition. I've had to relearn my mind and the positivity that it can create. I've had to learn about mitochondria. And again, back to the mind, more about the mind and the power of vibration. Everything is vibration, so it affects you whether it is positive or negative. And your thoughts are exactly the same. It is vibration. So it's whether it's positive vibrations you're sending out or negative vibrations you're sending out is entirely up to you. And that is where the biggest sort of changing, the key thing for me is that part of my life and that part of my brain that I'm working on. So yeah, so if you are going through anything similar and you're struggling and you're thinking, yes, do you know what, I need to relearn my life too. I've become stuck within that cycle. I've become fearful of doing things because it sneaks up on you. You don't realise it's fear that's stopping you a lot of the time, until you sit and go, actually, yeah, I was just too scared to do that. I was just too scared what people might say. I was too scared in case I'd make a tit of myself, which is my biggest fear, I think. I always feel like somebody's judging me. But really, I'm just judging myself. And that's something. And if people are judging you, it doesn't matter, because they're not living your life. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know how much effort it took for you to go to this kids' school play. They don't know what it is that you've had to, like how many days you've had to psych yourself up to get your ass on that seat. So you have to be proud within those moments of yourself. And I just tend to share them now, because I'm like, I'm so proud. Like now I'm feeling proud. I am proud of how far I've come. I also have to say a massive thank you to all the mums that have helped me over the last couple of years. You honestly, I don't think you actually know how much you've helped me. Like, I'm getting emotional again because I can't help it. But those ones that have helped me to my car, checked on me, make sure I'm all right, volunteered to take my kids somewhere because I couldn't. The kindness that I have been shown, oh God, the kindness that I have been shown has just been so overwhelming, as you can see. And I just want to take a minute just to thank you all, because you are truly incredible people, and I would be lost without all the help over the years. I'm probably a little bit more broken than the person you see today. So thank you. So I hope this video helps someone out there in knowing that you can change the way that your life is. If you don't like it, you can change it. You just have to have patience, time, be willing to fail, but ultimately never give up and just keep trying. So yeah, that's it.